think it's time we rise up, people. It's time's up, people. You can talk all you want, but it won't change a thing. I wanna know what you do.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Up and Up. I have two wonderful guests you will probably recognize from previous shows, not only on my own, but as far as part of the con and things like that. Beth Jacobson is here with us. Welcome back, Beth.
Thank you.
And Elizabeth Johnson. Welcome back, Liz.
So nice to see you again, Jodi. It's good to be here.
Great. I'm so glad we could get back together. It sounds like, Liz and I have been talking over the last couple of weeks and really figuring out where things are in the process of putting everything together. But in case anyone didn't see this before, Liz, can you kind of give everybody an overview of what this project is and the overall goal?
Yes, thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about it, because it's really moved since the last time you and I spoke. But as I may have shared with you on the last show, Beth and I have been in this fight to be able to stop unlawful foreclosures for years and years and years, not with limited success. And we finally, like light dawns over Marblehead. My God, there are so many tentacles to this, and we've been going down the wrong rabbit hole. Instead of going down and expecting to get justice in the courts, and Beth is going to talk about that a little bit later on, or be able to get people to do things for us, we thought we need to be going after the legislature, because they're the ones who make the laws. They're the ones who decide which way to go. But how do we get the legislature to pay attention? And how do we get people interested in making the legislature pay attention? So we sat down and we did what I talked about before, was our organization plan. Because as Bernie Sanders once said, if you want to beat organized money, you have to organize people. And although there are a plethora of people who are talking about unlawful foreclosures, we're all in our own little silos. There's this organization and that organization, books are written, things like movies are made, but we've never come together to speak in one voice, under one theory, putting forth one idea, one remedy, or a series of remedies that we are all entwined for and about. So then we sat down and we wrote our organization plan. And when we wrote our organization plan, we realized, okay, what do we need to be successful? We need to have legal, we need financial, we need the Latinx community. And we found out that there were like 11 different kinds of things that we needed, teams that we came up with to make this happen. And we thought, oh my God, we've been trying to do all of this ourselves. Oh, no wonder. And as I said before, we looked for a remedy in the courts, and that did not happen. So then we began to work on this new theme of bringing in the people all over the country, these various nonprofits, authors, leaders, to say, let's come together on one umbrella. So we formed the Justice for Homeowners Coalition. And in this coalition, we have several nonprofits. We have Homeowners Legal Rights. We have got Strategic Housing Solutions. We have several of them from across the country that are saying, oh, we agree. We need to start talking in one voice, because this one thinks this is a remedy, they go into court and they get their butts kicked under that remedy. Someone else thinks this is and let me tell you. And you know what's been happening? We have been counterpunching, Jodi. We have been counterpunching. We have been letting these financial community go in and talk to the legislators, get them to introduce legislation. And what do we say? Oh my God, they got this bill through. What do we do? What do we do to combat that bill? But I said, now we're saying, let's go on the offense instead of always be on the defense. Let's make these legislators understand that this is government of the people, for the people, and by the people. Let's get them to be able to repeal those bills that are against us, to change the ones that need to be changed, and introduce the legislation we want you to introduce. Power to the people. And then we thought, okay, how do we get these various factions to listen to us? We need people. And that's when we thought about the clergy. We have to bring the clergy in, because that's where all of their members are the ones being foreclosed on. So why would they not be interested in a remedy? And Beth is going to talk about those remedies whenever she takes the microphone. She's going to be talking about those remedies. But that's where we are right now. We're about bringing these factions like the media. We have media personalities with us now. We have the media with media, I'm sorry, and we have the faith-based community with us now. We have the activists with us now, and we're all under Justice for Homeowners, the coalition. People don't have to stop what they're doing in their particular neighborhood, but do it in the name of Justice for Homeowners, so that name can get out there, and these legislators will know, oh my God, this is a movement. You know, it's just not poor little Liz Johnson and Beth Jacobson and Jodi Newell saying, oh, it's a whole entire community. So that's where we're going now.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And so Beth, I would love for you to kind of give us a little refresher on how you got involved with this, because I think it's a really interesting story, and I'm sure some of our audience has heard it before, but I would love to hear a brief kind of how you really came to understand how bad this issue was and know it very intimately.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I started in the belly of the beast, Wells Fargo. I worked at Wells Fargo from 2000 to 2007 at the height of the subprime loan origination. I was part of that. I worked as a loan officer at Wells Fargo. My previous background, I had as a legal background, I was a paralegal, and I was consulting for attorneys. So I was doing a lot of different things. And so anyway, Wells Fargo ended up hiring me, which at that point, I was like, this is great, because if you're self-employed, you understand you're paying for everything, your health insurance and everything. So I looked at this as a great opportunity, because now I'm working for this big corporation. Well, then I found the evil that lies inside Wells Fargo. So yeah, they were originating the subprime loans. So I was going along drinking the Kool-Aid with everything that Wells Fargo was doing. And just a little unknown fact here, when you're working at Wells Fargo, they give you laptops, you know, that they filter the internet coming in so that only positive, anything that was negative about Wells Fargo wouldn't come in, kind of like Russia right now, you know. Russia is thinking they're doing the right thing in Ukraine because they're filtering everything that comes in. Things have changed, obviously. When I left in 2007, people, you know, are using more of their own laptops, but that's how insidious all of this was, is that you were given a Wells Fargo laptop and Wells Fargo filtered what you received on the internet so that so you would continue drinking the Kool-Aid. Anyway, I kind of got off track there. So I left Wells Fargo of my own accord in December 2007. And I was kind of like deciding what to do. And then the foreclosures were happening and I started piecing things together, because when you're sometimes in the middle of something, you don't see what's happening. And so then as I took a step back, I'm like, oh my God, these loans were so predatory. We were putting people into loans and looking at their debt to income ratio. We qualified them at the starter rate, which in 6 months was going to increase. And the debt to income ratio was 55%, meaning we took 55% of their gross income, not their net income, the gross income, and said that can be used to pay your mortgage payment. You can't live like that. I mean, it's literally eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every day of the week, if that's the type of loan you're put into. So people were put into loans, and it wasn't just Wells Fargo, it was all the big banks, Lehman Brothers, all of them, they were insuring it. People were put into loans that the banks knew the homeowners would fail. They bet against that. And so as Liz alluded to, there's a lot of movies and documentaries out there. Go see The Big Short, which talked about how the banks bet that homeowners would fail and made money on homeowners failing. So I happened to see in 2009 that Baltimore City, and I live in Maryland, Baltimore City was suing Wells Fargo for reverse redlining. And I was reading that, and the question was, they statistically had the data that more African Americans were being foreclosed by Wells Fargo, but they didn't know why. So I reached out to the attorney representing Baltimore City, and I was like, I'll tell you why. So that attorney drove 2 hours to come meet me the next day because he had to link it up. And that's when I talked about how Wells Fargo proactively and as a business plan, a written business plan for the company of Wells Fargo, targeted the African American churches to reach out to the clergy and have homeowners attend what they called wealth building seminars, but only subprime loan officers were there. So all of these potential home buyers and people that were getting refinances were put into subprime loans. And Wells Fargo told the clergy, oh, every loan that we get will donate $350 to your church. That in itself is fine because they were nonprofits. So the clergy was thinking they were doing the right thing by their parishioners, by getting them into home ownership, because that's how you build wealth. Unfortunately, they were put into subprime loans. So that's kind of just a quick course on what reverse redlining is. I blew the whistle on that. My affidavit was used ultimately by the Department of Justice for Wells Fargo for the reverse redlining, and Wells Fargo settled for $175 million. So since that time, I have been advocating and assisting homeowners facing foreclosures. I have trained attorneys from Maryland to California in foreclosure defense. I've been admitted as an expert witness in multiple jurisdictions. And so I do a lot more work in Maryland just because that's where I'm physically located. I met Liz, 4 years ago now, maybe. And so we started working together and trying to solve this, but you sort of feel like the little boy with your finger in the dike, because it's like you get one thing here, then something else is coming up. And it's just so much information that's out there. And so that's when we started talking, because these, I'll call them foreclosure mill attorneys, they're all linked together. A lot of them are in multiple states. So they plan their strategy on what they're doing. And so when Liz talks about kind of like the legal team, which I'm part of, is I am encouraging the lawyers, let's start talking about what we're doing. And we have to look at it, what can we do as far as a national level, because there's federal laws out there that you can utilize in every single state as a defense to foreclosure, or be proactive and sue the servicers. And then more on a smaller level within the states, because every state has their own foreclosure laws, and that we need to actively get together, because usually attorneys don't talk about their strategy and how they're winning and how to do things. So we're saying, if you're helping homeowners fight foreclosure, or you're proactively suing these servicers, we have some winning strategies that we can use, and you may have some winning strategies. So let's get together. It's not like we're trying to take business away from anybody else. Believe me, there's more than enough homeowners out there that need help, but let's get together. We don't need to, what's the saying, reinvent the wheel every time. We've got solid templates on, if you're suing under RESPA or TILA in federal court, we have something already put together that we can talk to these attorneys about utilizing. And so the more attorneys and advocates that we can get together, the more that we can help homeowners on a larger scale. And as we're seeing more of these cases come in, we're seeing the same violations. Right now, the whole issue with people going to foreclosure, there's still people with subprime loans, but obviously COVID. Servicers are not complying with the CARES Act. Servicers are not complying with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and FHA and VA guidelines, to the detriment of the homeowner. States have set up these grants and money from the federal government that came as part of COVID to help homeowners. If they were current as of March of 2020, these funds are available to them. Some of it is grant money, some of it as loans. The servicers aren't telling the homeowners, the states aren't doing a good job getting the information out. We want to work to get the information out. In Maryland, that's a defense to a foreclosure. If your servicer failed to tell you that you had the ability to go get this money. But if the homeowner doesn't know that that's a defense to foreclosure, the attorney doesn't know that that was a defense to foreclosure, once again, the homeowner is losing their house. So there's all of these defenses that are out there. There's probably more that when an attorney's going to tell me, I'm like, wow, I never thought of that. Let's do that. So we just want to get together more or less as one voice. And the foreclosure mill attorneys are organizing. The attorneys representing homeowners need to organize. I went way, way long on that introduction.
It's all very, very important information. And, I know that, it's hard to keep it brief because there is so much good information. So when we publish this episode, we'll also have links to the other things that people can watch so that they can get a longer and more in-depth. It's all good information. It is amazing. One thing that I think is really interesting to kind of take from that is, one of the things that you were talking about, Liz, is needing to bring together, like you have a faith-based team, right? It's interesting to see that Wells Fargo actually did this, or they used this faith-based. They basically essentially had a faith-based team that was for sinister reasons, and taking advantage, which I think is it's like one of the worst things that you could do, is because what they're doing is they're directly targeting the most vulnerable among us, right? And you would think that that would be a reason to be more careful and more kind to people, but it actually is a reason we can take advantage of them because they are.
Well, there's this saying that's something like, my people perish for lack of knowledge. And way back when this all first started, and then that's when we saw Lynn Simoniak on 60 Minutes talking about robo-signing. And then as I listened to that, and that was way back in the day when all this first started, I thought that's every home in the country that applies to. So I told a politician friend of mine what was going on and what the banks were doing. He says, "Oh, come on, Liz, the banks wouldn't do that." You see, so that there's certain things we are inculcated with, things that we are taught to believe in, our teachers and what we learn in school. Now we find out a lot of what we learn is like, not so cool. We're just taught and inculcated to believe in these institutions. And so when we see the bank with all of its lovely columns and people, and they're in control of the money, we don't think anything about what happened at Jekyll Island when the whole economy was taken, the whole financial economy was taken over by the scions of industry, and they took over it, and we ended up with Federal Reserve notes instead of silver certificates. We don't even think about that. So when these banks and these guys in three-piece suits and briefcases went to the ministers and said, "We're going to do something for your people. We're going to help them become homeowners. And we're going to enable them. And we're going to make your community blah, 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 blah." And then, these ministers not thinking, these guys, they don't know anything about the depth and the breadth of this financials in Wall Street and how they move. So they believe them. And so consequently, they brought in their congregations. And I'm sure that Wall Street was laughing their badoonzas off because they thought, boy, those people put something in the book and they'll never find it. And now we're bearing the brunt of that. So we're asking for the clergy to come back into this and help to thumb their noses at these people who did it to them and say, "We will get you," because we're going to go to the legislature and we're going to undo those wrongs. We're going to undo them. So we're hoping that we will be able, and this broadcast will bring the faith-based community into this. And as Beth said, we're going to be thank God for Zoom, okay? Because we can put these entities together so that our faith-based team can hear from the legal team how we're going to work this. So come one, come all, lawyers and legal people and faith-based clergy as well. Sorry, I didn't mean to interject that.
No, it's perfect. Could you tell us a little bit, Beth, about, what does it look like? So if there were somebody who wanted to volunteer to be on the legal team, what would that entail?
Well, first, let's say they're an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would ask them then, are you willing to assist homeowners facing foreclosure? And so one of the things that's out there that people mistakenly believe is that these homeowners are deadbeats. In fact, the foreclosure mill attorneys will come into court and actually say the homeowner is deadbeat, when the reality is the homeowner may have had an issue, and most recently maybe due to COVID. Now they're able to make the payments and the servicer refuses to make those payments. So my point being is these homeowners can pay the services of an attorney, but they want an attorney that knows what they're doing and what are the defenses that they can adequately use in order to save their home. And there are some people out there, they're few, far in between, and this is not what we're advocating, to get a house free and clear. That is not what we're saying. We're saying let's get into a fair and equitable loan modification. Mm-hmm. If your house is not worth the amount of money that you owe, then there needs to be a principal forgiveness. It has to come, we want to get a payment that the homeowner can afford, that it's at the market interest rate. So if the attorneys come, first of all, we have to look at generally, when did the homeowner become delinquent? Because now there's kind of that big, we have a line in the sand. You've got pre-COVID, post-COVID. So if people were late prior to March of 2020, there's kind of a set of defenses that we use then. If it's after March of 2020, there's a set of defenses in particular with that. But the overreaching on all of those is RESPA, which the federal government has issued as part of the Dodd-Frank Act, that governs mortgage servicers and how they handle a loan modification. There's no federal law out there that says a servicer has to give a homeowner a loan modification. FHA, Fannie, and Freddie have requirements to say if you meet these certain requirements, then you have to give them a loan modification. But for the other 50% of the people that don't have a federally backed loan, the federal government only says this is how you have to review people. These are the steps you have to take. And if you fail to take these steps, and you being the servicer, then the homeowner actually has a private right of action to sue. But most homeowners don't know that. Most lawyers don't know that. And they don't know what are those steps that the servicer was supposed to take and failed to do. And so we work with the attorneys to train them to say, these are the RESPA violations. And so depending on the state, the attorney can either use it as a defense to foreclosure and or file proactively against the servicer. If there's already an attorney involved, sue them because they're a debt collector, and the homeowner's protected on the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, which may have been violated. And so now the homeowner can sue the servicer, the debt collector, which are usually the attorneys, and the purported owner or investor of the loan. So that's three entities that the homeowner then can sue. And one of the things under the Truth in Lending Act, if we sue under that, if the homeowner wins, the other side, being the servicer, the debt collector, and the investor, has to pay the homeowner's attorney's fees. And so that's another way to get the homeowner paid. And so that's what we're looking at for the attorneys as well, because yes, it's all wonderful if you could do a pro bono, but we realize attorneys have to pay bills too. So that's not what we're asking, that we're going to help train them though and show this is how you can get money under RESPA and have the banks pay your fee. And with the homeowners, we work with them and we calculate this is what we believe a fair amount of a mortgage payment that you can pay. And while you can't pay that to the servicer right now, you pay that into the attorney's escrow account or their trust account in order to pay the attorney's fee. So we're not asking anybody to do something for nothing. We also are asking, of course, for people that are willing to donate money to the cause to help this out. But we're also telling the attorneys, we've streamlined this for you. So it's not going to take you 10 hours to draft a complaint. It might just take you 2 hours. And so a lot of attorneys don't take on these cases because it just seems so daunting. And this is not stuff they learned in law school. This is most of the stuff came out after 2014. And then the other thing that we're looking at, going back to what Liz had originally said about changing the laws, is one of the things we're looking at changing the laws is if a borrower was put into a predatory loan, that should be a defense to foreclosure. In most states, it is not a defense to foreclosure, but that should be a defense to foreclosure. The other thing that we're looking at is about 2 years ago, Wells Fargo paid $2 billion with a B, $2 billion to Department of Justice because it put people into stated income loans and inflated their income by more than triple what their actual income was. These loans had a 50% default rate, 50%. And so the investors complained to DOJ. DOJ sued Wells Fargo on behalf of the investors. What about those borrowers, those 50% of those borrowers that went into default? None of that money went to them. So that's where we had to start talking to the attorney generals in all these various states to say, wait a minute, DOJ and sometimes the attorney generals in various states are suing these banks, these originators, these servicers for what they've done. None of the money's coming back to the homeowner. The homeowner lost their house. And so that's the other thing that we're looking at. So it's like all of these, a myriad of things that we're trying to get done.
That's interesting because I actually forgot to ask earlier when you had mentioned something. I'm not sure if it was that settlement. I think the number was a little different. But the thought of, does this actually make the people who are taken advantage of, does it make them whole? Clearly it's not. So Another aspect, and so let me just kind of bring it back to like my bread and butter over here, and you know what my jam is political activism, right? I think you guys know that at least a little, but that's really where I put my volunteer hours and things like that. And so I noticed that was one of the teams. We talked about the legal team, we talked about the faith-based team. I would love for either one of you, whoever feels most comfortable, going ahead and giving a little explanation of what the political action team does, what that looks like.
Oh, that is so interesting. I volunteer. That is, that I don't name all of the teams, but if I can just say this, and I'll make it brief. When we were talking about what we needed to do, because we were like, what have we not done? This thing we haven't done. We haven't brought people together. So what do we need? What kind of people do we need? And then we came up with the list that I sent to you. And let me just, there goes my eardrop, but I don't really need it. We have these teams that we came up with, and I'll put it back in a second, here's my list. And we had the Spanish speaking team, the database team, research, faith-based, fraternities, sororities, political action. Like, this is like a car. How do you make this car go? And we had the writers team, the fundraising team, and then we put in goals for every one of the teams, how they can start operating without spinning in place. But without a doubt, that was certainly one of the important teams that we have put together that we need as a result to be able to be effective. That's what we need to be effective. We, of course, need the political action team. And so that not only that, when we put these various teams down, Jodi, it gave the janitor, the grassroots people saying, well, what can I do? I want to help. What can I do? Well, we just whip this team on them and say, pick your team. Which one do you want to work on? And they will look down this and think, and they read the instructions and they think, okay, this is where I think I can be effective. And when they decide where they're going to be effective on themselves, they will work and they will feel comfortable there rather than saying, I want you to do this or I want you to do that. They can select where they want to be. But the political action team, you want me to read the instructions for you for the political action team? Compiles contact information, telephone numbers, addresses, emails on relevant government and political personalities, and identify other groups with which to form coalitions. And and that there's a lot in that if you unpack it, because when you have a certain law that you're advocating for, it goes to a certain committee. Well, already what this team will do, they will find from the legal team what it is we're trying to do. Then they start getting together all the people who are going to impact that decision and how we're going to impact them, how we're going to send them emails, we're going to write to them, we're going to send them letters. We might even have demonstrations in front of their houses, but the political action team decides all that. So when it's their turn at bat, boom, they know exactly what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. And that's what the political action team does. And you know that because you're an activist. And these are the things that activists do. Activists know what senator, what congressperson, what committee, what organizations, and whatever affect that decision. And you're all ready to go. Even if you don't know particularly, you know how to find out. If you don't know, you quickly know how to find out what you need to know about the people who can influence your decision to do what you're doing. So yes, by all means.
Let me just add to that, just practically, one of the things is Maxine Waters is on the banking committee for the House. So they were getting ready to grill Tim Sloan, who was then the CEO of Wells Fargo. This was about 3.5 years ago. I had no connections politically, but we found some people that did have those connections. And so I was able to draft questions for Maxine Waters, for several other of the people on that committee. And so, and they gave time. I'll have to do a shout out to Madeline Dean of Pennsylvania. I'm not from Pennsylvania. She said she could give me 10 minutes, 10 minutes. We went well over an hour as I started telling her everything about Wells Fargo. And she actually said, oh my God, this sounds like it's an evil corporation and it's criminal. And I'm like, yes. But if you think about it, these Congress has so many plates in the air. And so, yes, and you hear Elizabeth Warren, talking about the banks, and she really does a good job, when they're there grilling them. But it's like they have so many things to focus on. So if we want to be known as the experts in the field, so when somebody either federally or on a state level, if there's federally, more likely you'd have somebody from the banking industry there that they're going to question them. Let us help you draft the questions. Or if it's on a state level, we are the experts. And so you come to us, and so we will, because we know what the banking lobby is going to say. And so we're going to tell you, this is what the banking lobby is going to say, and this is what you need to say back to the banking lobby in opposition to that, because we've been doing that. And so it encompasses all of that. And so if somebody like yourself has people that we can get to provide this information, that's another way. And so if somebody wants to be on the political committee, they don't necessarily have to be the ones that are kind of drafting any of this, just connections. If you've got connections, your second cousin happens to be working for Bernie Sanders, we need you, something like that to get us there. And so with this connection, I got there, had a meeting with Maxine Waters, was able to present her with the questions, some of which she did ask, and then I was able to meet the other people there. So that's what we need. It's all these connections.
And those are really, I don't know about y'all, but I love watching those committee hearings. I don't often watch the entire thing, although I've been known to do weird things like that. But anyway, but no, those are the things. Those are the important. It's very important how the question is asked. You have to be knowledgeable about, not only, what is their defense, like what are they going to come at you with, so that you can, it's bird dogging 101, right? You ask a question and then you have a follow up already back in the back of your mind, because you need to make sure that you actually get that answer. You don't allow them to get around the thing. And then also to provide as much information as possible within your question, right? So regardless of what they say on the other end of it, you're still getting the information out there, so people are more aware of what's happening. And so it's just a myriad of ways. And the other thing I'm thinking about, as far as politics and elected officials and stuff, attorney generals, what I mean? These people who are there are people who are supposed to be fighting the good fight for the citizens of their state and things like that, who are elected officials. I think actually last time we had a conversation about this, Liz, you were talking about an elected judge who had a hand in some nefarious things, but there you go. You find out about that, and then that at least is up to the people. Thank you so much. I want to give you an opportunity to let people know where they can find out more information. Like I said, I want to link the con in here below and some other interviews and things so that people can watch further. But how can they find out more about your organization? Where can they sign up and all that kind of stuff? Let me know.
Well, the Justice for Homeowners Coalition, we just kind of formed that a couple of weeks ago. So we're still getting the website up. We're working with just a second, and we're working with all these various nonprofits across the country. So we want to make sure that everybody's not slighted, that they think, no one's feeling like they're going to lose their footing with where they think they need to go. So we're still putting it up, but you can get in touch with Beth or myself. And if you don't mind me sharing my and Beth's information on how they can reach how they can reach each of us, then I would like to be able to do that. And of course, we have our nonprofit, but we don't have anyone, since we did this about face in terms of our actions, we have to retrain our people in this new reality, in this new way of thinking, so they could go to our website, Strategic Housing Solutions, SHS Maryland, spelled out, .org, or, and I'm gonna let Beth give her information, they can contact me at my email address, which is HELIZ5406@gmail.com. And Beth, I'm going to let you give your information.
Sure, mine is easy. My last name, Jacobson, JACOBSON .Beth, BETH @yahoo.com.
All right.
So then so that they can get in touch with us, but we're working on the website for Justice for Homeowners Coalition and getting everybody all happy, how that can be, so that no one is feeling like they're being slighted. So we're building that now, and you know what it's like to build a website. but and simultaneously work on our concept. But it's going to be up, and right now with what we're talking about this minute, it's okay if they contact us individually with whatever they have in mind. And we're really interested talking to the political action people and talking with them with the clergy and the legal team, because we're going to hook them all together, and the rest of the people are supporting actors. Someone said to me, "Oh, Liz, this is your baby." I said, no, this is a team. Right now I'm up at bat, but you guys are in the bullpen and the bases are loaded. You got homeless, you have foreclosures, you have these things that are on the bases are loaded with these people. You guys are in the bullpen, the political action team, et cetera, et cetera. When it's your turn up to bat, you have your stuff ready, because I will be running the bases.
Right.
And that's what we're going to be doing. So that's how I really sort of like characterize where we are now. I feel like we're starting all back over again, Jodi. You're like, where have we been? It's like, oh my God, we've been running down the wrong rabbit hole, because we really thought, because the law was on our side, that we were going to win. So then we kept doing things in the courts, which can take a long time. And we kept counterpunching behind what these banks are doing. Now we're going to get our own legislation introduced. If these legislators cannot do what we want them to do, they have lost sight of the people and are now working for corporations. And I tell you that we can bring, with your help and what you do and the meeting, the people that we're coming in contact, now that we're singing a new song, we will bring the people out and make these legislators, some of whom I really believe want to do stuff, but we're not behind them. We're not behind them. And so we got to get behind them and let them know we're in support of what they do and where they are, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go off the deep end there.
No, you're absolutely right.
You know, we'll get behind these attorneys who want to help us. But then they're like, well, geez, there's like one attorney said to me when I was looking for attorneys, he said to me, where have you people been? He said, I work for the banks. He said, but where have you people been? Well, we were never organized. We were there, and we had the short, we had the big short, we have the con, we have home records, we have people writing about it. But Jodi, we're not organized, and now we're going to get organized. So with that, I give you back the microphone.
And I would say just, one quick thing is that I think, that really is the big thing, is that when you're organized, people can see that it's not just them, because we do have these ingrained, ideology, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And if you're falling through the cracks, then you must have done something, and blah, blah, blah. And even people who are aware of these, crazy tactics,
Yes.
People still are like, oh, but maybe I should have done this, or these kind of things that are ingrained. And what organizing does is it brings everybody together so that people understand that it's not just you, that this is happening to everyone. There's, the banks know, you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, we've got to show them. That's the reason why we did this across the country, because we want to make them think this is just not happening in Maryland. Oh, we have got to force this spread across the country. And that's a whole different look for them. They've never seen that before, that there's a countrywide movement to be able to get justice for homeowners.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And,
Thank you.
I said it before, and we're doing the thing. So next time I want to continue to update on this. I feel like it's just an amazing effort that you guys are putting out. And yes. And so if anybody would like to find out about that, we will, you guys gave your email addresses, and we'll put that information along in the description as well, so that people can reach out to you if they want to volunteer. And I hope people do step up. There are a variety of different teams. You can get in where you can fit in. You know what I mean? You can make yourself useful no matter what your skills and where you are.
I just want to say, Jodi, I told Beth, I said, I so enjoy talking with you. You're so effervescent, and you ask great questions. You have great comeback, and you are in the field. You are out there in the field like the rest of us doing stuff. And it's a joy to be able to talk with you, because so many people were on podcasts, and they're people who are really adamant about stuff, and they feel passionate, but they're not doing anything. They're not doing anything. They're just giving us a voice. but you know, you're in the field, you know, you're out there working. So it's such a pleasure. And I'm so grateful to you that you allow us to come back and talk with you about this matter that we feel is important to. So Mazel tov.
Thank you. I enjoy talking to y'all too. All right. And if you enjoy this episode, talking to the viewers now, please like, share, and subscribe. It's very helpful for us to get this information out there to as many people as possible. And that's what we need to do. So thank you very much. And I will talk to everybody next week.